Prisoners in Quebec detention centres have found a new way to smuggle in contraband. Drones. Over 270 drone sightings were reported in just 3 months this year, despite millions spent on detection tech and border security, or tighter security at least. Experts say the problem is growing. Jeremy Laliberte is a professor of mechanical and aerospace engineering at Ottawa's Carleton University. He joins us on the line. Good morning.
Good morning.
So how serious is the drone problem in Quebec detention centres?
I think it's quite serious across the whole country. This is a technology that's become quite ubiquitous, very easy to access, inexpensive, requires no skill to operate. So I think it's something that has been growing for a while and has lately become, quite serious and expanded, not just in Quebec, but across the country.
How does it work?
So you can purchase these drones from a hobby store, toy store, online, very easy to get. The technology, you can even build them from parts, which a lot of people do for recreation and so on. And then you can program it with waypoints using GPS so that it can fly a set path, or you can control it remotely with remote control, even your cell phone. Attach a payload to it, set up a really simple mechanism to release the payload, or even just crash the drone where you want the payload to be delivered. They're so inexpensive that often they don't even worry about getting them back, basically.
Right. So when you say payload, what are we talking about?
It could be anything, the traditional contraband that folks are trying to get into prisons, whether it's drugs or weapons or cell phones, money, cash, cigarettes, that kind of thing. And it's not much different than, using them for legitimate purposes, like people use them to deliver medical supplies, life-saving medicines, things like that. It's just, the same kind of mechanisms, but a very different purpose, of course.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so I can see how easy that would be in theory, but why are they not detected? It seems like it would also be fairly easy to stop them.
Yeah. A lot of it has to do with what people have focused on traditionally. If you look at aviation in general, we've always focused on tracking large airplanes, things that are easy to spot, easy to detect on radar. Drones are small, they're fast, they're made of a lot of plastic materials. So a lot of traditional, let's say, radar systems have a hard time picking them up. So you need a completely different, frequencies of radar, different radar technologies that were not originally designed for this purpose. They tend to be quiet, they're battery powered, so they're electric, so they also don't make a lot of noise. You can fly them at night without lights and things like that. So they really, although they're not necessarily designed to be hard to find, it's easy to make them hard to find, basically.
Mm-hmm. So what is being done to try to curb this?
Yeah, so I think the best strategies, the ones that people are focusing on are multi-layered strategies. So not trying to rely on just one tech to stop them. You need to go after, detecting the drones with things like radar, cameras, acoustics, so you can hear them coming, thermal cameras. You need to look at ways to track the controller, so where the person is actually launching the drone from. So there's technologies that focus on that. Physical means, so nets and other ways to actually physically stop the drones from getting into unauthorized areas. And then on the legitimate side, there's efforts to, improve the ability to track and identify legitimate drones, so you can kind of filter them out from the ones that are, malicious or doing things they shouldn't.
Okay.
So you can sort of, focus on the bad ones, basically. Yeah.
But that strikes me as being really challenging. Yeah. I know you're not a criminologist, but why would a legitimate drone be flying over a prison?
Yeah, there's no, off the top of my head, I couldn't think of any legitimate reason, but if there was, some sites nearby, let's say you're a real estate, you're doing real estate surveys, from, let's say, surrounding areas, or you're a farmer, if it's in a rural area, forestry, search and rescue, those kind of things. So there could be, in these restricted airspaces around the prisons, there could be legitimate reasons to be there. But the people who want to fly there legitimately, there's a mechanism for them to request permission. So they have to go through a few steps to be allowed to fly in those areas. And of course, they would follow those steps, right? So they're not the ones we're worried about.
Right. Right. But we still hear stories all the time, though, of people who are flying drones that aren't supposed to in places that they're not supposed to. We had some stories, I think, during the F1, too, of, unauthorized drones. Yeah. People don't always, even if they're not criminal, They don't always
Yeah.
follow those rules.
Exactly. We have this with forest fires, people flying drones to try to get photos of forest fires, and that's
Right.
illegal. You can't fly within 5 nautical miles of a forest fire with any aircraft that's not authorized. So yeah, people do that all the time.
Yeah. So, but it sounds quite elaborate. I mean, you mentioned radar, camera, acoustics, tracking controllers. Like, how realistic is this? I mean, I also think, the criminals are always kind of one step ahead.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's challenging. It's expensive. To build the defense is going to be a lot more expensive than the drones themselves. But we have to do the same thing in other areas, around sensitive sites like power plants, nuclear research stations, defense installations, airports. Like, there's lots of other areas that need the same kind of defense for different reasons. So I think, the best thing is for all of these folks to collaborate, right, and work together, share the technology, share best practices. There are efforts underway in the government on the counter-drone side of things, and it's not just for civilian applications. You look at, Ukraine and what's happening in Israel and Iran.
Yeah.
Obviously, these are, really, really, advanced technologies. So everybody's interested in this. Like, there's a lot of work going on in this area, but it does take some collaboration and cooperation to make it happen.
Interesting, because I'm thinking it's like the canary in the coal mine. It's such a, it's such a crazy story about literally dropping, guns and cigarettes into prisons that maybe it wakes people up to the bigger problem. I'm wondering if you saw, because of course, Prime Minister Carney recently made an announcement about defense, and AI was in there. I wonder if you think that Canada it does sound like we need to get on top of this. And I wonder if you think that Canada is making the right moves in that regard.
Absolutely. I think in general, like we within the industry, we generally know that Canada is quite at the forefront. So in terms of things like regulations, we have some of the most advanced regulations in the world, even ahead of the Americans, in terms of allowing complex operations and allowing, people to fly drones for really interesting and complicated missions like forestry and surveys and things like that. So we're out ahead in that sense. There are a lot of companies active in this area as well, from the traditional aerospace to a lot of new players and stuff. So I think that the next big challenge is to bring all of these folks together, because there's work happening all across the country, and coordinating all of that, I think, is going to be the next big step. We work closely with international partners, in like-minded countries that have similar issues, right? In Australia, the UK, the US, and others. I mean, we're all facing the same kind of problem. So there is a lot of collaboration going on and sharing of knowledge in that area, but it's still going to take time, right, to get these technologies out there.
And it's crazy, as you point out, how accessible they are. I mean, to anybody, can fly a drone and can buy a drone. It strikes me too, though, that it would be a useful tool in catching prisoners who do escape.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, search and rescue, tracking people who are lost or people who don't want to be found. That's one great area for the technology. Obviously, the military uses it, in that regard quite a bit. But the same sensors you need to find a lost person are exactly what you'd want to find, somebody who's trying to hide, basically. Yeah.
Wow. Jeremy, super interesting. Thank you so much.
Yeah. You're welcome. Have a good day.
You too. Bye-bye.
Thanks. Bye.
That's Jeremy Laliberte. He's a professor of mechanical and aerospace engineering at Ottawa's Carleton University, talking about prisoners using drones to drop contraband. Lots of it is happening in Quebec. Over 270 drone sightings were reported in just 3 months this year.